water to and get it out. The key is we have to get the money for the infrastructure. Even on a 2 to 4 inch rain, when we know water starts to pile up in the streets after 4 inches, it will kick on these pumps and it would pump it out. And if we can do this with the help of the governor, of course, then these businesses downtown may one day be able to get insurance because we have a proven track record of never flooding. But there's lots of issues in the streets with these so-called go-away holes that the word burping has become an issue. Well, none of them are vented. So how does the air get out if they don't have a vent? So that's a poor plan to start with. That JL and I, you know, we showed up and now it's sitting in our laps. We're not kicking the can down the road. We're going to do something about it. It's just the fact that it takes a lot of money. And I did talk to the people that came to my meeting the other night, and I basically explained it to them. But it's just this simple, how something as simple as a styrofoam cup, we have 6 4-inch wells. 6 of those wells can take about 2,000 gallons an hour. Well, there we lost that flow right there. So whatever else flows into them, even if you clean prior to that, and what you asked, what did we do proactively? We pumped 2.2 million gallons into the spray field the night before, which left us 2.2 million gallons of capacity in our waste treatment plant. So we didn't really start flooding in the downtown until 10 o'clock that morning. From 5 to 10, we saved the city of Live Oak, which doesn't seem like much, but we saved them 5 hours of flooding that morning by proactively pumping all that off and cleaning out the things we could clean out. Now, after the fact, DEP allowed us to clean down the go-away holes that some of them didn't flow as good as they should have when we forced it down. Mr. Klepper's got a good point. When you push stuff in the aquifer that's not been treated, that doesn't seem right. But in a flood like this, everything's going to the aquifer no matter what. I mean, if my boot came off, it's going down one of these holes. You know, and at the bottom of the aquifer sits things just like the bottom of the ocean, like ships sit at the bottom of the ocean. There's things in the aquifer that's just sitting there. So we realize this, and we are working on a plan. And like I said, I've discussed this with 3 different engineering companies, and the plan will be written up. I'll be able to give you a plan by January. No problem at all. It's the key is the funding, because I know exactly where we need to pump it and how we need to pump it.
And to what Ms. Robinson was speaking to, I do feel like it would be productive too, for us to vote to schedule some kind of a workshop though as well to discuss ideas and things that we've heard from members of the community and just different areas in which
just follow up to see what has been done.
Yes, ma'am. So would that just need to be made in a motion form or to schedule a workshop?
You could have a consensus to schedule a workshop, and the administration would coordinate the dates with the council.
Right. Is anybody opposed to the scheduling of the workshop? All right, so we have a consensus.
Well, has he finished?
I wanted to add one more thing. My understanding, I don't know this to be...
I'm going to ask you to step up to the microphone because we won't, anything you say won't be recorded unless you're at the microphone.
I don't know this to be fact, and there's a lot of rumors all the time going around, but I understand you have some sort of a lift pump station, whatever it is, whatever it does, it helps to get the water out. However, when the electricity goes out, those pumps fail to work, so there is no generator that keeps them working. I mean, that seems like it's a fairly easy fix for something. It may not do all of it, but it may help something. Now, I guess you guys know whether you have it or not.
JL can speak to that point.
Yeah, all of our major stations have generators on until it goes underwater.
No.
Does that mean it needs to go higher in the air?
Generator.
All right, now with this workshop, are we setting a time, a date?
I think that's to be determined by staff.
We'll try to mention it with Jan and I'll get together and we'll try to bring up a date that's good for everybody and schedule it.
And we're going to consider Ms. Robertson's recommendation about this committee, or part of that
We're gonna have a
workshop.
workshop first.
Yeah, look at that. Discussed in the workshop.
All right.
Is that satisfactory, Ms. Robinson?
Yes, that's
Can you take names right now for their workshop from businesses? I'd like to be honest.
There'll be public notice given of the workshop.
Well, that's another thing.
Yes.
3 minutes left. You only have 3 minutes.
I'm not sure how you're going to get the information out, but I talked to 5 people downtown today. They didn't know anything about the council meeting being tonight to talk about it. So I don't know how y'all are getting that information disseminated, but it's not going to a good big part of the people that want to know it. Luckily, John put me on a mailing list, and I get that whenever my meetings are for whatever they're for. But none of the people downtown do.
And that has been the main form of communication, is getting on that email list.
But how do they know to get on it, you know? There's no information comes out.
Well, I think at some point, I mean, I understand, yes, sir, we can advertise it on the social media site, the website as well. I mean, but that's,
Well, that other fellow, Moses, I think he said, had a thing about where you have your constituents, have them on email or on one of the media, and you disseminate it that way to everybody who has a
well, then we,
email address.
there's a lot of things we could discuss, but I mean, there's a lot of, I guess, sunshine laws and privacy acts that would open up them to maybe different scrutiny and things of that nature, depending on the form of.
Well, this should all be
communication.
public. I mean,
No, I agree, but do they want their line, do they want their end being public if that were necessary? That's where the problem is.
well, you know, if
That is your,
if they're worried about it, then they should have on the lines, on the media lines, there's always a box to check. No, I don't want this information, or no, I don't want you disseminated, or no, don't send anything to me.
And my question is to our clerk. What is the platform that we use to get these meetings out, workshops and everything else, other than email?
Well, there's a city ordinance that was adopted, and it says every second Tuesday of the month at 5:30, there's a meeting. That's your notice, that's the notice. There's no more requirement than that.
Can we add it to our water bill? Just one time, not every time?
Well, everybody should know it's the
I know.
second Tuesday.
I agree, but
No, I'm
still.
not just talking about the city council meeting, but workshops and all of that. We require, because it's open to the public.
You send notices to the newspaper, and it's up to them to make public notice to the public if they want to or not.
I don't get a newspaper, I don't know y'all. Nobody reads
We have a website, it's on our website.
And that
It
leaves,
requires a little effort on somebody to look to see what we're at.
and that leads to be my next question, is the cancellation time period. I understand there's a gray area, we do not have a cancellation time period. Did give notice to everyone that we will not have one?
I don't think this is an agenda item.
Well, I'm just going by what was opened up and how we do our media for it, how we allow the public to know about the city, whether it's on the agenda or not. There's an ordinance and all of that.
All right, so Mr. Robinson, you're satisfied? And we'll be noticed on the workshop. All right, moving to item 7, Mr. Sessions.
I was gonna bring up the flood part, but we discussed it already. There's only one other thing I want to do before we move into the number A, is I'm remiss for being able to get fluoridation onto the agenda for tonight. Does the council want another workshop or just want it on the next agenda to vote on?
Now, Mr. Manager, for that group that's been coming before us, maybe one person can speak pretty much what they want. We've had meetings and almost votes on that, but I think it'd be fair if we hear from someone. Mr. Vance just said what Mr. Curtis, Mr. Larry had asked of what you all want to do, so we can go ahead and make a decision on this. You all waited long enough.
Y'all want to vote, or do you want a workshop?
So that's basically up to the council.
Yeah,
Well, what would be the consensus of council? I think there was, I don't know, we have one prior workshop?
We've had a workshop and a vote, but some of the council members were not a part of the
Right,
workshop.
on the original workshop. So with the consensus
my
of the council
recommendation.
be to have another workshop, we'll put it on the agenda item, they can take the public comment as appropriate and then make the final vote.
So that would be the
Still-
decision which we make. Do we decide, would you care to have another workshop? Or would you want to put it on as an agenda item with public comment and then another vote on whether or not fluoridization
well, that's
takes
why.
place or not?
Excuse me, didn't we vote the last time?
No, they got, there was the motion.
We did, it was
failed.
rescinded.
Motion was rescinded, and then the other motion was without a second. So, but now, I just want to be what's fair to this group, pro or con. I mean, we make the decision pretty much, but if they're tired and wants us to render a decision, then
Oh,
I'm just,
I understand what you're saying, but I would think that the workshop would be the most beneficial for the three new council members, as this is probably the third or fourth time you and I have been through the fluoridation
I'd
process.
like for us to have a workshop.
all right, then.
All right, so let's just roll call this.
David, I'll go to the workshop.
Okay?
Last workshop.
Yes, ma'am.
Robinson workshop.
Before we agree on this, do we have to have a
Roll
motion?
calling for the workshop.
We're
or
just
not.
determining the consensus whether to schedule as an agenda item or a workshop.
Workshop.
Okay, so it's a majority workshop, unanimous workshop. So we will workshop.
We'll get together and try to get a date for it.
Need to know
When can we?
We won't know until they inform us as well, so. And then it'll be made out in public notice.
in how long?
They who?
We don't have a date yet or a time yet.
Okay, but it'll be,
It'll be noticed.
It'll be noticed like a normal public hearing.
Who will make that decision? Who will make that decision on the workshop? When we have it?
Staff's gonna have to get together and figure it out.
Mayor, council president.
Is the meeting going to be scheduled?
You need you can't just, you need to say your name for the record.
Vince Smith. Is the meeting going to be scheduled so we can vote at the next monthly meeting? This is being pushed and pushed and pushed. And it looks like you don't want to deal with the issue, too. A lot of us that sit out here. And we're very concerned about children that are in minority areas that are having their brains affected by some of the chemicals that are being put in this.
Okay, well, we're not gonna discuss that tonight, though. I'll stop you there. We're not gonna discuss that tonight. Tonight, we're discussing whether or not we were gonna have a workshop, which we are gonna have a workshop. Staff is being
Can we
asked to
schedule a workshop before the next meeting? Monthly meeting?
I think we can work that out.
That's all I'm asking.
Yes.
Thank you.
To the council. Former Linda Owens Williams, and I sat there where you're sitting before. My question to you, why are you continuing to bring on something that we have already, as a board? Is it that our opinion didn't matter? That what happened when we voted on this? We voted on this, and you sit
So
there.
this is really not the time for this conversation.
It's a time for conversation
I mean, I'm
because of
gonna
the
shut
fact
you
that
down.
you are
We're not
sitting
gonna
here
have-
bringing up an issue that has already been taken care of. My concern is.
Officer
there was-
Davis, if you could, please.
I promise you it's gonna be good. I promise you that. And this is a waste of the city council time. You bringing up things that have already been voted on. To me,
All right, item 7A.
Item 7A would be City Council Resolution Number 2024-26, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Live Oak, Florida, declaring certain personal property owned by the city to be either surplus to its needs and sold at a publicly noticed sale, determined to be obsolete, non-serviceable, or beyond economic repair, and appropriately discarded, providing for the authorization to remove such surplus property when sold or disposed of from the fixed assets of the city, and providing for an effective date.
All right, you've heard the reading of Resolution 2024-26. What would be the pleasure of the council?
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 2024-26.
All right, we have a motion. Second. And a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign? All right, resolution 2024-26 passes. Item B.
City Council Resolution number 2024-28, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Live Oak, Florida, authorizing the execution of Amendment number 3 to Agreement to WG-051 between Florida Department of Environmental Protection and Swanee River Water Management District associated with the Live Oak Septic to Sewer and Reuse Project, and providing for an effective date.
All right. With the pleasure of the council,
So moved.
we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign? Resolution 2024-28 is passed. Item C.
City Council Resolution number 2024-29, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Live Oak, Florida, authorizing the purchase of real property located in Swanee County, Florida, for a price of $4,000 plus all reasonable closing costs to be determined at closing, repealing all resolutions in conflict, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
All right, what would the pleasure of the council be?
Offer motion 2024-29.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Yes, what's this piece of property located at?
Thank you.
It's a piece of property on Railroad Street. It's out there all by itself on the property by the Heritage Park and Gardens.
Okay.
It's been offered up to us, and basically it'll just make that whole piece one contiguous piece of the property.
And we're sitting on this piece of property, or we're gonna?
It'll be part of the Heritage Park and Gardens.
Okay.
It'll probably give us a benefit in the future, since it's got road frontage on railroad if needed.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign? All right, 2024-29 passes. Item D.
All right, item D would be ordinance number 1519, an ordinance of the City of Live Oak, Florida, amending the zoning district to 0.812 acres more or less of land on the official zoning atlas of the City of Live Oak, land development regulations pursuant to an application LDR 24-04 by the property owner and/or their authorized representative under the amendment procedures established in Article 3 of the land development regulations, providing for a change in the assigned zoning district from residential single-family manufactured home to RSF MH2 to residential office RO on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Live Oak, Florida, providing for severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, authority, and an effective date.
All right, what would the pleasure of the council be?
Do we need to hear from Mr. Kirsch?
Thank you, George Curtis, Development Manager for the City of Live Oak. Good evening, Council. This is a property on Hamilton Avenue, a few properties south of the intersection of 129 where Window Whittle goes west. Approximately 8/10 of an acre The density that's allowed on the property already allows for up to 8 units, 8 residential units per acre, but the current zoning is single family, which allows for only 1 home. So the zoning change to residential office would allow a few more duplexes and another single family home to be constructed on that property. And this did come before the Planning and Zoning Board on August 19th, and they unanimously recommended approval for the zoning change. And staff's recommendation is also approval.
All right, you've heard staff recommendation. Pleasure of the board.
So move.
We have a motion
I'll second.
and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? All right, ordinance number, first reading of ordinance number 1519 passes. Item E.
Ordinance number 1520, an ordinance of the City of Live Oak, Florida, amending the future land use classification to 0.434 acres, more or less, small scale of land on the future land use plan map of the City of Live Oak Comprehensive Plan pursuant to an application CPA 24-03 by the property owner and/or their authorized representative under the amendment procedures established in sections 163.3161 through 163.3215 Florida statutes as amended, and Article 3 of the Land Development Regulations of the City of Live Oak, Florida, providing for a change in the assigned future land use classification from residential moderate density to residential medium density on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Live Oak, Florida, providing for severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, authority, and an effective date.
Mr. Curtis.
Thank you. This is part 1 of a 2-part application, so this item as well as the item that follows it are on the same property. This is on the back side of Merrimack and Pine Avenue, just west of US 129. It's in a single-family zoning presently. The property, when it was platted originally, was comprised of 3 platted lots. So when it was platted, there was the possibility to have 3 homes, 1 per lot. The way the home was constructed back when it was built was actually the long ways across all 3 lots.